And where's the Tri-State Defender? Right here, give me a hand. I so appreciate your paper. Thank you. Best black paper in the South.
First of all, talk to me about this reception here from your CME folks.
Well, I tell you, it's
Does he need to hold it?
you're right there.
Right there is fine.
Let me say that I really appreciate this after a long flight, relatively speaking, but not too far. To have you here, to have my brothers and sisters here from the CME congregation. It's
All right.
it's really, it makes me smile. You know, I think where did I speak at Houston at the conference there, and it brought back such great memories of my mom, who in all her courageous efforts, you know, did everything she could do, you know, for her beloved college, Payne College, and also for the Christian Baptist Episcopal Church. I had a very extraordinary, wonderful time with Bishop Williamson here. We tread our way in Texas. We ran into each other, and certainly Bishop Brown here, we know each other from back before he retired. So, but it's quite an honor to be here, and I think part of my theme tomorrow morning, excuse me.
That's right, not tomorrow night.
Tomorrow morning, we'll see the thing. We'll focus on the idea of imagination, and as the bishop here mentioned the fact that my mother went to Payne College, and part of my moral underpinning as a child, and I'm saying that to you too, young man, or back in the back. Part of the moral, what my mother said to us all the time, that she was eternally grateful for her mother and father, because she didn't pick cotton in September. She went to school in September. And I'm sitting here right in front of you because that glorious woman, by the grace of God, went to school in September. And that has guided me in certainly my relationship, my understanding that I am simply a continuum of all those men and women within my family and collectively who had the imagination and who maintained their integrity and stood tall in the midst of that, in the midst of what's happening. So in that sense, we know that imagination took my great-grandmother, Mary Brown, who was born in 1853, my grandfather's mother, my grandfather, and his incredible wife, my grandmother, who got a switch after me after she saw the photo. She had great joy in putting the switch on me after she saw the photo. And on through my mother. And my own brothers and sisters have continued that in their way, the legacy that we stand on, the legacy. And I still go down to Louisville, Georgia, and Rennes. I was down there recently with my cousin Fanny, one of my mother's last surviving first cousins, who's just had her 94th birthday on January 19th. So it's still a part of me, and I feel so blessed and grateful that the beautiful gift that my mother gave to me, even though I was born in San Francisco, was her family and all that tradition. And I don't know what else to say.
You did, that was great. I know we're here, you're speaking at an HBCU, and there's been a lot of talks about the how relative HBCUs are anymore. What is your take on what HBCUs give?
Well, you take the 134 years, right, of Lane College,
Yeah.
of educating young men and women. I'll tell the statistics of 52% of the students, graduating students, the students at the college are men. So this legacy, the legacy, when you talk about a liberal arts college, you frame the work of a liberal arts college in several ways. You know, you can look at it as they're not going to probably create a lot of biologists, you know, a lot of chemists or whatever. But one of the things that you learn in liberal arts college is how to think.
Yes, sir.
You know, how to think in a sense, how to think critically. And critical thinking is an important part of what we need as citizens today. Whatever community we're in, we need critical thinkers. We need people and critical thinkers are courageous. I mean, the HBCs in this country have produced a number of critical thinkers, men and women, historically. And that's what is important. Imagine 1882, establishing a college with the vision, and it's what Second Corinthians, we walk by faith, not by sight.
Not by sight.
You know what I'm saying? With the fifth courage
Right.
to establish something else, and knowing that its legacy, what it produces at that moment is not the end. What it produces in the future is what we're talking about. And that's what I think the importance of this. And certainly when I've talked to the bishop and others, it's paying colleges, like most HBCUs are in a situation where financially, a situation that we have to start a campaign, not only in the service of Lane College, Payne College, or any of the other smaller colleges, but we have to start a campaign.
Right.
And we have to act as children of God,
Yes.
good Christians, good citizens,
Yes.
good citizens, and make sure that these HBCUs are here for the next generation.
Did you ever consider an HBCU?
Huh?
Did you ever consider an HBCU, or you went to San Francisco State? So I know you're in California, not too
Well, I did, you know, and I did. We're talking about, I graduated from high school in 1964, you know, and I did consider that, you know, but I was lucky to get out of high school. Let me tell you, hey, look here, I'm not going to create any hyperbole about my grandmother came to visit us, and she took the bus out. My mother's mother took the bus out from Georgia to visit us. And she's in my graduation, not because I graduated in June, but because I graduated that summer. So my best choice was City College in San Francisco, you know, and it would have been, you know, then that's another history, you know, because I virtually live in the same neighborhood. I live in the same neighborhood since I grew up in since I was 11 years old. I lived 12 blocks from where I grew up at 11 years old, when my parents managed to put together the money they had and also the faith they had and bought a little house in San Francisco. You buy it for about $11,000. And I grew up in that house, and I lived 11 blocks from that house, 12 blocks from that house. And so on the one hand, even though I've been able to travel the world and see a number of communities, I think the experience that I've had, you know, as growing up in San Francisco was invaluable in terms of going to San Francisco State at a particular moment in San Francisco State and the city's history and this country's history. At the same time, I was able to kind of take that and whatever that experience is and have that resonate through my life as well.
Okay.
I have a question. Ms. Glover, And when you were in college in the 60s, a lot of turbulent times in America, and young people were the activists in our society at that point. Fast forward to now, Black Lives Matter, young people and colleges presumably are at the forefront of social change now. What do you say to young people who, you know, want to get active? Maybe they don't necessarily see the point of, you know, a college education if it's all about getting a job. You know, what do you say?
Well, I certainly, the act of learning is a lifelong process. You know, I mean, I don't think my father went to college. Of course, he was another generation. He didn't go to college, but he was active in his union. He worked, and I think, and I know at the same time, because my parents were young parents during the civil rights movement. They were critical thinkers, and they supported the efforts of change that was happening. I think that it doesn't take, and to serve itself. You know, Dr. King always said that you don't need a PhD to serve. You know, you don't need a PhD to serve. You don't need a college education to serve. I think that a college education provides a foundation, and it's just a foundation. What you do after that, what you do after the education itself is what's important. That's the critical point, whatever it is. Whether we go to high school, or whether we go to trade school, or whether we get a BA. You know? So I think it's important. And I think the curiosity and imagination of young people has risen to another level. And I'm excited about it. You know, I'm almost 70 years old. You know, and I'm excited about what I see happening in my young people who are thinking, you know, who are not accepting the status quo, and who are courageous in their efforts, you know, and particularly the fact that women are at the forefront. The great deal of what was happening in the civil rights movement, you may have had Dr. Dorothy Hyde and other women, Satima Clark, and you had to go on, Fannie Lou Hamer and everything, but women weren't at the forefront, in which they are at the forefront, as I see them now. So I think that's an important step. It's an important moment, because the issues that we deal with now certainly have, despite the efforts of the civil rights movement, despite those efforts, and they were heroic efforts, you know. They were young people in 1964 with Freedom Summer in Jackson, Mississippi. They were young people who were leading the talking about voting rights at that particular point in time. The issue of voting is still unclear in the sense who votes, who has the right to vote. It's still an unsolved issue, unresolved issue in this country. So these young people were doing that. They were also denouncing the war in Vietnam in 1964. Young black and white students were doing that. Before there was any anti-war movement and everything else. They were demanding the space. And I think in understanding and watching the evolution of Dr. King, that had an enormous imprint on who he became, as he saw young people pushing the envelope. And it takes young people to push the envelope. You know, it takes them with their imagination. It takes them with their idealism and all the exuberance of you to be a part of us. Now, we as those who are elders, and I consider myself an elder now, in some sense have to applaud them and everything else, but we have to also protect them as well, and look after them as well, and help them as well, you know. And when we feel that they've missed the beat, and they have to rethink something, we have to tell them that about that as well. Certainly, the world has changed from 1964 when I graduated from college till more than 52 years later. The world has changed. And we have to take that into consideration. And we have to take that into consideration wherever we are in this country and in the world. That things have changed. What we talked about and the issues that resonated 50 years ago, 52 years, are not the same issue. You know, we have to critically think about what is happening to the planet. I think at the commencement speech at Jackson, at Texas College, I talked about it's important for us, you students, to think about climate change and global warming just as much as any students. I don't care if they're at Harvard or whether we're at MIT or wherever they are, you know, Cornell, whatever they are. You have to think about climate change. And what does that mean? There's a young brother young brother that I worked with, I was chairman of Trans Africa, who started a group called Color of Change. The Color of Change. Young brother, barely over 30 years old. He started this group. He has about somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 or 3 members within the group itself, donors and everything else. And he basically said, okay, what does the impact of the TPP bill, the Trans-Pacific Pact, Trade Pact, what does the impact have on people of color? Nobody talked about that with NAFTA. Nobody talked about that with the WTO, the impact it would have on manufacturing jobs and everything. Nobody, so there was no real mobilization behind that for people to respond to it or to have a voice in that. So we got to have a voice at every step. You know, a new article that I just read says that methane gas is leaking into the atmosphere from fracking. And really, it's changed the nature of how we deal with global warming and climate change. You know, I know from myself that's something like 22 of the 53 African nations are on the endangered list in terms of global warming. There's a city 2,000 kilometers from Maputo in Mozambique that they're not talking about how do we reverse global warming and climate change, is how do we evacuate. And we have that all over the world. So we have to be concerned about that. And the impact is going to have on several things. Migration, you know, resource, scarcity of resources, you know, war, conflict. And when we talk about war and conflict, who does the war and conflict affect the most? Women and children.
Come on, that guy.
Okay,
We got to get to Jackson.
one more question, if you don't mind, Mr. Glover. I know back in 2011, the Freedom Awards honored you, and we had one of our civil rights icons just pass away, Reverend Billy Kyles, who was with Dr. King on the night that he passed away this Wednesday. Tuesday, he passed away.
You know, I was just watching the piece he did from the balcony.
Right.
With the wreath around the balcony.
Yeah.
I was just watching. Isn't that something? I was at the last time I was home. I'm trying to figure the last time I was home.
Right.
but last time I was home, I put that in I wanted to look at that again. And he's so prominent in that piece, you know, and talking about King. I didn't know that.
He did, and for one of the few or lasting civil rights icons are now leaving us. And thank God his story was told. But talk to me about your thoughts, because when you were coming up, an activist yourself, about what this means to have this man lead this earth.
How
this means having somebody of this magnitude of what he brought and what he did, and just your own words.
It's not what he did then, it's what he continued to do. And that's what we have to revere. And we have to uphold that. His work didn't stop when King was assassinated or killed. His work didn't stop then. It's what he continued to do. And what civil rights leaders, those people participated in the civil rights movement 50 years ago, as they continue their work. I have a great friend of mine who used to be the mayor of Berkeley, Gus Newport. Gus Newport's a great friend of mine, and the work that he continues to do at 81 years old still, long past the time when he was in his 40s and the mayor of Berkeley, and some of the initiatives that he was able to establish and some of the work that he was able to do with the mayor of Berkeley, but it's still working, it's still out there. It's what we continue to do beyond that. So for us, we got a little pep in our step because we see what young people are doing. And that's what we're saying, let's make no doubt about it. What young men and women are doing, the conversation, the narrative, as they shift the narrative, is what's important. And I think we have to remember that. It's not enough for us, those of who were student activists, whether in the 60s, or the early 60s, or the late 60s and 70s like I was, it's not enough for us to kind of sit back and have our little beer or whatever, and talk about what we did in the past, what happened in the past. It's not enough for that, you know? I mean, my bishop here, he's still out here. He's still doing it. He's still there, he's still working, knowing that he has a capacity to change people's lives and to change young people's lives and to be a force. We all do. And when Dr. King said that, you know, you don't need a PhD to serve, you don't have to be 21 to serve. You could be 81 to serve, or 70 to serve, or whatever you can be that. Now this is what I heard now.
This is it. I've got to get him where
Well, I just got one thing now.
Please,
you know, the other
please,
thing that I came here and I told the bishop here, because I'm trying to dispel this rumor. That the rumor was that the rumor is that the best barbecue is in Jackson, Tennessee, not Memphis. That's what I'm saying. That's what I heard. I